Somalia's President Mohamed Abdullahi Farmaajo made his first state visit to the country since he was elected in February, to a cordial reception with full military honors. The same warmth that Kenya says it is extending to his people. And after talks, the two leaders announced they would be opening up 2 border posts. Direct flights from Nairobi to Mogadishu would also resume in 2 weeks.
Within the shortest possible time, open 2 border posts in Doble Liboy and Mandera Bulahawa, and to facilitate the movement of people, goods, and services. So, ladies and gentlemen, when people are talking about us putting up a wall, here we are opening borders.
I wanted to thank you for making the flights from Mogadishu to Nairobi. Starting in 2 weeks, we will welcome that, and we really appreciate, and that shows that we have a new beginning.
The fragile security situation in Somalia has been a concern for Kenya that has also contributed men to the AMISOM military coalition in the country to restore law and order. Kenya says she will help Somalia build a strong security architecture that will take over when AMISOM troops start drawing down starting 2018.
We must continue our fight against these evil criminals until they are no longer a threat.
Cooperation between our 2 great nations is necessary to combat the challenges we face, including terrorism and poverty.
But also on the cards is the refugee question, which will be a major talking point at this weekend's special IGAD summit. An estimated 1.1 million people are internally displaced within Somalia, and nearly 900,000 are refugees in the region. Kenya hosts 500,000 of them in Dadaab, a refugee camp that has attained iconic status and that represented the country's open-hearted response to those fleeing war and persecution.
Kenya committed to train within our institutions and at government cost 200 teachers, 200 nurses, and 100 Somali administrators. Indeed, to support the enhancement of technical skills necessary for rehabilitation upon return.
The IGAD summit will be preceded by a special session of the IGAD Ministerial Committee on Durable Solutions for Refugees. Sheila Sendeo, NTV.
We were talking about the important conversation of Kenyan troops still being in Somalia. Is that likely to end anytime soon? We've had other countries saying that it's time maybe that the AMISOM troops leave, but is it really time for that?
The mandate of AMISOM is up to 2018, but that could be also renewed.
Right.
As I was saying, the bigger question that critics are talking about in terms of President Uhru's visit to Somalia is they should be talking about why are AMISOM troops in Somalia in the first place? Right. And for them to exit, what would it require to happen? And AMISOM has to have eventually an honorable and orderly exit. And for that to happen, you need to stand up Somali security forces that are capable of taking over from the departing AMISOM troops. And until that happens, we hope that the troops will stay there.
Do you think that is one of the priorities for Farmaajo right now?
Farmaajo definitely wants to improve on security. It's a big challenge, and that cannot be done in a very, very short time. Right. This problem has taken a long time to be in place, but the expectations is that he will do all of these things within a very short time.
All right, let's talk about also the drought crisis in Somalia. It is one of the things that Antonio Guterres spoke about just a few days when he was here in the country, and he asked, other countries to come in and support Somalia in this time. Kenya is also, having issues to do with famine. What kind of conversations are we likely to see between the 2 presidents, seeing that Kenya already has an issue to do with famine, but also Somalia is affected by the same?
Absolutely. The droughts are regional. Somalia, Kenya, all the way to Yemen. This is happening. It's very tragic. A lot of people, first of all, the animals were dead, and now people are dying in Somalia. The two presidents could perhaps do a joint appeal to put a little bit more pressure on, agencies and donors to act expeditiously. And those could be part of their discussion. Another could be, as you know, we have a large refugee population here in Kenya.
Right.
And as they discuss their repatriation, they could also be talking about how the droughts could hamper that process of repatriation.
Let's talk about that repatriation. It has been one of the issues where, countries, international partners have come in and said, and even criticized Kenya for actually making that decision to, have refugees living in Kenya going back to Somalia. Is it really time that happened? Is Somalia ready to handle this, these people who are coming in? Is it stable enough to have people coming in?
What many people don't actually look at very closely is the simple logic that when there is insecurity, when there is drought, when there is, humanitarian catastrophe, people do not stay in place. They move, and they go to places where it is safer, where it is easier for them to make livelihoods. And unfortunately, borders do not control that.
Right.
What governments are trying to do is to manage that refugee and humanitarian crisis. So now, in Somalia, as the security situation gets better, as the livelihoods get better, people are going back.
And it is getting better?
And it is getting better, and people are going back. In fact, what I know is that the Somali embassy right here processes up to 400 returnees that are not registered with UNHCR. This is how
these are people who want to go back.
People who are going back voluntarily. There are so many displaced persons and refugees that are not even registered that are here in Kenya. I heard the figures up to 50,000 people. So these are people who are urban dwellers, and they're going to go back to cities. These are people who are able to go to the embassy, get their passports, and go back. The others, those who are in refugee camps, that we have much more closer coordination with Kenya and UNHCR.
It's interesting that you say that because, for a long time, the story about Somalia has been an unfortunate one. Most of the times, you're talking about the Al-Shabaab. There's so many negative things that, people have to say about Somalia. But here you are telling us that actually life back there is sort of like improving.
It is improving. It is improving, and what we hope is that President Farmaajo and his new government will build on those bases and improve even further. He has a lot in his hand. We talked about the droughts. We talked about security. He has to reform the security sector. He has to strengthen government institutions. He has to fight corruption. He has to do all of these things, but he cannot do all of that in a vacuum. He has to also review and finalize the Constitution. He has to work on reconciliation. And so the priority is a lot of work, and his government, I'm sure, will be able to deal in prioritizing those issues.
And talking about prioritizing those issues, and you talked about security being a very big issue right now in Somalia. Just a few days there was that suicide attack in the capital. I mean, what kind of support does he still need to ensure that he can stabilize the country, and especially when it comes to security, also considering the Al-Shabaab factor?
Yes, I mean, there is still strong violent extremism going on inside Somalia. And for President Farmaajo to counter that violent extremism, he needs to look at it comprehensively. It cannot be only a militaristic security angle solution. It requires political, social, economic, inclusivity and the dialogue. What he can get help with is how to address those issues holistically. He has to start with his own security forces, the National Security Agency, other security sectors. Justice has to be delivered, and sometimes people are disenfranchised because they don't get justice, and that is what could be could make them sympathizers of Al-Shabaab and the likes.
Right. You are a presidential aspirant when back in February. What do you think about Farmaajo's leadership? I know it's a bit too early to talk about it, but I'm sure you've interacted with his ideals and you know about him. What can you say? What kind of a president is Somalia likely to have with him in power?
He is from what I know about him, he is someone who dives into a situation wholeheartedly. He is honest about that. He has a bit of an emotion, which can be good and bad. But
emotions?
Yes.
Oh, really?
Emotions.
Okay.
And sometimes it is good. And this is the reason why so many Somalis came out, and gave him a historical national mandate. So many people came out. But it also has its downside because the expectations are so high and that it is unrealistic for him to meet those expectations in such a short time. I think he has a good partner in the Prime Minister, and they will be able, together with their cabinet, to prioritize those issues and deal with them. However, the cabinet has been appointed only 2 days ago, so the jury is still out. In our system of government, what we have is the Parliament has to give a vote of confidence to the government. I understand there are some still negotiations, but hopefully they will pass.
I mean, being a presidential candidate at some point, I'm sure you have so much hope and so much expectations of Somalia as a country. Do you think that there's that future that you had, the vision you had for Somalia, which is going to be soon in the offing? We'll be thinking about Somalia and thinking about a place that we want to go visit the beaches and go, see other things that, that Somalia is able to give to the world.
I'm very hopeful. I'm very optimistic, and for Somalia and for the Somali people, I think that future is almost here. As soon as we stabilize and security gets better, government institutions get better, we deal with issues of corruption. We also have states that have been performing on their own without a central government for a very long time. And those states have been now formalized and formed. Our power is negotiated one. It's and delegated to the federal government. So this government has to deal with that. But in terms of my own personal hope, I see a very bright future in Somalia. Just right after the elections, property prices are again going up. People are speculating. There is so much economic activity on the ground. So, many diaspora are coming back to the country, investing. Right now, for the droughts, it is Somali people everywhere that are making contributions.
Oh, wow, across the world?
Across the world. I mean, the world is helping, but the contributions of the Somalis helping their own Somali brothers and sisters is more than all the other international. So these are the things that are, I mean, we were a country that was so fragmented, fought along clans, civil war has taken place, but today to see Somalis coming to the aid of other Somalis, it is really very inspiring.
All right. You look like you're very hopeful. Let's